All right, hey everybody, what's up? It's Atrona, and today we're going to be talking about the different classes in Sword Art Online. So let's get to it. So in Sword Art Online, there are 8 different classes. There's the staff, the dagger, the dual swords, the sword, the rapier, the bow, the mace, and the sniper. Those are the 8. Out of those 8, 3 of them are ranged, which are the bow, the sniper, and the staff, and all the other ones are melee. One of the very cool one of the very cool features that this game has is that in case you want to know what it's like to have a certain character that you want to scout, you can actually go over to wherever it is that you want to scout, be the fairy tale or, for example, these wind ladies as I call them. And if you check over here, it'll give you a quick specs of all the 4-star characters, but more importantly, there's this button up here on the top right that says skill trial. If you hit that, it'll actually allow you to test drive for, say, all the different characters, the 4-star characters that they have to offer. So you can look at how their skills work and how hard they hit and all that. So we're going to start off with the staff. The staff has the longest hit streak at 9 hits, even though it's 3 groups, I guess. It's 3 groups of 3 hits. So there's 1, 2, 3. And the reason why it's important to note and why I'm bringing it up is because every hit brings you a certain amount of MP. I'm not sure if it's the same amount across the board for all classes, or if the max amount of MP you have, kind of decides how much you earn. But for the most part, the more hits, the more MP you tend to get. It's important to note that all the ranged characters, bow, sniper, and staff, cannot block and they can't parry. So you gotta do your best to, dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge your way out of being hit. Because there's no way that you're gonna get hit and have reduced damage unless it's like because of the equipment you have. So as mentioned, the staff has 3 groups of 3 attacks, and as far as the damage distribution, I don't know if everyone calls it that or if it's just me, but it's the way that the damage varies throughout the combo. With the staff, they're pretty consistent. There's no going up or going down to the damage. And as mentioned, since you can't block or parry, they actually have this other form of attack, which is when you hold down, you let them charge, and you let them have it. So with the charged attack, the damage distribution is also consistent, but it's a little higher than if it were a regular hit. It's 3 hits. Now, if I'm not mistaken, for staff, when you use this charged attack, you don't just hit one character, but you hit a lot of characters that are around you. So if you find yourself surrounded, that might be a technique that you use to either slow them down or maybe even kill them so that you can get out of the way into safety. So the next one available is another ranged character. We have the bow. The bow has 4 hits, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And so the damage distribution with the bow is that the first and second hit, not the first and second. The first hit tends to be the lowest one with about 450, 470 around there. The next 2 and 3 happen to be a little higher, and then the final one will hit at 900. Not all classes do this. Actually, I think the bow is the only one that has an ascending damage distribution throughout the combo. One of the cool features to note though with the bow is that if you do a regular attack, the arrow stops at whoever it is you hit first. But if you charge your shot, it'll actually pierce and hit another character behind. So that's something to keep in mind if you're in front of a huge horde of monsters. It might be better to do that so that the overall damage that you do is bigger. The reason why I'm not going into the skills offered is because skills vary a lot from character to character, even when they're in the same class. So let's move on to the next character. The Mace. Okay, so the Mace is the first melee character that we're covering. So they can block and they can parry. Notice as you're blocking, there's this gauge that's above. That's I guess we're gonna call it the endurance gauge. And we'll get into that a little more later. The combo for this one is 3 hits. It's pretty slow. It's one of the slower characters, but they're very tanky. They have a lot of HP and a huge amount of defense. And the damage distribution for them is that the first and second hit are the same, but the third hit tends to climb. So let's see if I can get it without any criticals. Yeah. So as you guys can see, the damage climbs a little bit towards the end. And obviously the numbers aren't going to be the same every time. But for the most part, the ranges tend to be a little higher. The next one available is the Rapier. The Rapier is actually one of the more fragile melee characters alongside the Dagger. The Rapier has 4 hits, and their damage distribution starts off at 1000 with the first hit. Second and third hit dip a little bit, and then the final one goes back up to 1000. So depending on what character you have, you might have more attack or less attack. But you're gonna notice that the second and third hit in the 4-hit combo has a little less attack. So that might change up your strategy. You know, if you see that you have like an extra second to throw in one more hit and it just happens to be the last one, you might dedicate yourself to that last one before trying to move out of the way. Or you might just not think it's worth it. So you just move away safely and you start attacking from another angle. I don't know. Whatever information I give you is up to you to use however you see pleased. Or however it pleases you, sorry. So the next one on the list is Sword. So the Sword has 4 hits, and actually the damage distribution is probably the most consistent with them. If anything, the last one climbs a little bit, but oftentimes we see that the damage distribution tends to put the first couple a little higher sometimes. So it's all in the same range, as you can see. So the next one we have on the list is Dagger. So Dagger has the second longest. It's the longest for melee attack though, at 7 hits. So their damage distribution is that the first to 6th hit, so all the first 6 are pretty consistent. The last one is the one that hits hard. As you can see, it's like in the 650, 700-ish range, but the last one hits 1000. So now we're gonna go over to the other scouting area where they have the only character, or one of the only 2 characters that aren't shown in that one, which is the Sniper, and they have it available here. So let's check it out. So the Sniper has a one-shot combo. It's as for you gun lovers, it's a court lock style weapon. So it means it fires once and you have to reload it. The very interesting thing about the Sniper though is that the Sniper has like a very mini game where you tap once to aim, and then based off of what position the circle is the damage that you'll do. And what I mean by that is if you catch the circle as it's moving, you're gonna miss. Let's see if I can get it. And it seems like it's just that second one. As it's closing down, it's okay. And it looks like as it's going up into the bigger circle is when it's not the right time to hit. Because you can hit as it's all the way out and you still hit just fine. It's a regular attack. So there's a range. There's a range as to like the area that you're not supposed to hit. The damage distribution is simply that if it's a really big circle, you'll hit a regular hit. If it's a small circle, you'll hit a very consistent critical. And if you hit it in that area when it's slowly going back up, you're gonna miss. Something to note though is that even if you do miss, it seems like as long as the bullet crosses through and it would have hit them, it'll grant you the MP. And just like the bow, a regular hit is, it hits just the first character, but a charge shot will go through. The charge shot from the Sniper seems to be way more linear and straight than the bow, but perhaps it only does that because it's only one enemy. And here's a good example of what I was talking about. As you can see, most ranged characters have a very linear skill, but this Sniper in particular has like an area of effects, damaging kind of thing. So that's why I'm not going too much into the skills. And so yeah, so now the only one left to talk about is the dual wield. And there's only one place where I know that you can actually test drive a dual wielding character, and that's with the Metal Scouts. So the dual wielder is also a 4-hit combo, and their damage distribution, it's probably the funkiest because it starts off at let's say about 1000. Then the second and third hit will dip a bit, and the final one will hit harder than the first one. So it's like constant, it dips, and then it goes a little higher than it was before. I think the rarity of the dual swords is pretty crazy. There's a small handful of dual wielding characters in this game, and they only allow you to get them ever so often. But this is a 4-hit combo that they do. So as you can see, the first hit was about 1000, drops to 800s, and then climbs up to almost 1300. Oh, I love that skill though. This skill's awesome. I love that final pose. Aw, snap. But yeah, so now that I've showed you guys all the different classes, now let's head over to the defense aspect of what I was talking about. Well, I guess I will go back to this count. So for melee characters, another very important aspect is how much damage they're able to block. A very cool other feature that some of us may not know is if you go to your menu and you hit other, you can go to parry practice. And there was recently an update where they'll have the characters that you have in your party instead of just Kirito. So here you go. So I set it up so that we have, she ate all that. I set it up so that we have all the classes except dual wield for the melees. So let's start off with the weakest one, which is Dagger. When it comes to blocking, well, if you let me, as you can see, that bar already gets depleted really quickly, and she'll take about 3 hits. Yeah, she takes 3 hits. She's the most fragile of the ones that can block and can parry. The next one in line is the Rapier. So Rapier can actually take 4 hits. This guy gets a little tired for some reason, gives you a bit of a break, but it allows you to see how the bar starts slowly charging back up. This isn't like Dark Souls though. If you stop blocking, if you stop blocking, it won't accelerate the speed at which you recover. It's the same. So sometimes it's just a better idea, if you can't parry, to just move out of the way, you know, once you took that couple of hits. So a good example would be like I'd be hitting whatever, and as I receive the hit and I can't parry, I'd just move out of the way and give myself a little time to recover. Next one in line is the sword. The sword also takes 4 hits, but you guys can see that it's a little more, it's a little more what the sword has on that last hit. And so perhaps for this fight specifically, that doesn't matter all that much, but when you're fighting a bunch of, you know, like regulars, a lot of like minions, that could mean the difference between you being able to take that hit and not guard breaking, or you guard breaking, taking a lot of damage because you're stunned and potentially dying. And the last one is the Mace. There is a huge difference between the second to last, or second place and first place when it comes to defense. Check this out. Boom. Does very little damage. I'm not going to do the whole thing on video, but I have already done it before and I counted it, and it takes 10 hits. It takes 10 hits of just constant damage for you to be able to actually guard break a Mace. And as mentioned before, since they have a really high HP pool, it doesn't even bother all that much. Oftentimes the characters can heal, or not oftentimes, but the really good 4-star characters can heal, and so oftentimes by the time you've depleted enough of their health, they just use a skill, flip it back up, and they're right back at it. But it's important to mention that the recovery rate is the same across the board. They all recover the stamina or endurance on the endurance bar, for say, at the same rate. But yeah, that pretty much sums up this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. The next video I'll do will probably be on, I don't know, an event, or maybe about pacing yourself when it comes to events that have items that require a lot of dedication. So until then, I'll check you guys later.